The door clicked shut behind me, and before I could take a step inside, she was already there, her hand against the frame, her voice low enough to steal the air from the room. "You always take your time," she whispered. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even impatience. It was something softer, like she had been waiting longer than she ever admitted. That's when I knew this night wouldn't end the same way it began. It started weeks earlier, in the dull rhythm of shared spaces and late-night study sessions. My roommate, Jason, was easy to live with, messy, sarcastic, and hopelessly addicted to instant noodles. But what I didn't expect when I moved in was his older sister, Maya. She was the kind of person who carried silence like armor, smart, sharp-eyed, with a calm that made everyone else feel unsteady. She only visited on weekends, usually to check on Jason, bring him food, or make sure he hadn't burned down the kitchen. But every time she came by, I caught myself glancing longer than I should at her half-tied hair, her quiet smile, the way she'd lean against the counter, lost in thought while the world around her moved too fast. The first real conversation we had wasn't planned. Jason had left for a group trip, and Maya dropped by unexpectedly to pick up some paperwork he'd forgotten. It was raining hard that night, the kind of rain that makes you forget there's a world outside your walls. She looked soaked through, shivering slightly, and I told her she could wait inside until the storm passed. We ended up talking for hours. About everything: work, family, why she stopped painting, why I never finished anything I started. It was easy. Too easy. There was something familiar about her sadness, something that mirrored my own. When she left that night, she smiled faintly and said, "You're quieter than you look." And I didn't know why that felt like a compliment. Over the next few weeks, she came by more often. Sometimes for Jason, sometimes not. She'd bring coffee, pretend she was there for her brother, then end up sitting at the kitchen table while he wasn't even home. We'd talk until the city outside went quiet. She'd listen in that rare way people do when they actually care about your answer, but feelings like that, they don't grow unnoticed. Jason started teasing me, saying I lit up when she came around. I brushed it off. Maya, though, she started to pull away, subtly. Shorter visits. Quick goodbyes. Like she knew something had crossed a line. Then one evening, everything changed. Jason got a job in another city and told me he was moving out. I congratulated him, tried to sound happy, but all I could think about was that I wouldn't see her anymore. When she came to help him pack, I stayed quiet, pretending to be busy. She barely said 2 words to me the entire day, but when Jason left for the night, she stayed behind to lock up. That's when I found her standing in the doorway of what used to be his room, looking lost. "I thought he'd always be here," she said softly. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded, because sometimes silence is safer than honesty. Then she turned to me, eyes glistening, not with tears, but something heavier. "You'll have the apartment to yourself now," she said. "You'll like that. You always take your time getting close to people." I tried to smile. "Maybe. But some people are worth the wait." That made her pause. Really pause. She stepped closer, slow enough that I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. The air between us shifted, dense and fragile. When she reached the door, she stopped, blocking it with her hand, just like she did that night that started everything, and that's when she whispered it again, but softer, like it carried every moment we'd left unspoken. "You always take your time." For a second, I thought she'd leave. That she'd smile, turn the knob, and walk out of my life like a half-finished story. But she didn't. She stood there, looking at me like she was deciding something she'd been afraid to admit for a long time. "Maya," I started, but my voice cracked. She laughed quietly, but tired. "Beautiful sound." "You think too much," she said. "You feel everything, but you never say it." And she was right. I'd spent months pretending feelings were easier to ignore than confess. So I took a step forward, heart pounding, and said, "Then I'll say it now. You make everything feel like it finally matters." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she didn't look guarded. She just nodded, barely, and whispered, "That's all I needed to hear." The moment felt endless, like the rain had stopped just to listen. Weeks later, when Jason called from his new city, he asked if Maya had visited since he left. I told him, sometimes. What I didn't say was that sometimes meant every evening. That we still sat at the kitchen table talking about everything and nothing. That she'd paint again, sometimes on the balcony, sometimes on the floor with color smeared across her hands, and every time she'd look up from her canvas, she'd smile and tease, "You still take your time." But now, it didn't sound like a complaint. It sounded like home message. Sometimes, the right people don't rush into your life, they wait at the doorway, patient and unassuming, until you're ready to meet them halfway. Because love isn't about speed, it's about timing and the courage to finally open the door when someone's been waiting there all along.